I'll relive it.
Themselves.
Turn on the television, girl.
Where are you going?
Where are you going?
I'm leaving y'all. The Holocaust isn't about race.
No.
It's not about race.
It's about a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
Whoopi Goldberg is obnoxious and stupid beyond all measure.
Whoopi Goldberg over at The View, she says that that as bad as it is now with voting rights, and no one can explain what the problem is or how anyone's being prevented from voting, she says that this current phantom attack on voting rights will only...
Goldberg is a well-known American actress, comedian, and TV personality. She's famous for her outspoken nature and strong support for progressive causes. Over the years, she has used shows like The View to share her thoughts on controversial and trending issues.
That they could be sick because no one wanted to believe we had an issue.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were the left.
Whoopi Goldberg's bold opinions have often sparked heated debates, especially when celebrities with opposing views challenge her. These clashes have sometimes highlighted flaws in her arguments, leading to moments of intense scrutiny and even embarrassment. Let's take a look at instances where Whoopi's progressive views were thoroughly called into question.
Raise your family.
I don't want the government, but
So shouldn't we all be able to say, listen, because the law says you don't, no abortion, no law, there's no law on the books that says you have to have an abortion. If my doctor and I feel that that's the best way for me, because if I'm a nice Jewish girl, or if I'm a girl who has a different religious belief, why am I being held to someone else's religious belief?
well, at some point, that baby, people will.
During a heated discussion on abortion on The View, Republican Representative Nancy Mace challenged Whoopi Goldberg in a debate that left Whoopi visibly flustered. The exchange began with Whoopi confidently questioning why religious beliefs should dictate a woman's right to choose. She emphasized personal autonomy, framing the issue as a matter of individual choice and assuming her perspective would strike a chord with the audience. However, the debate quickly shifted as Mace countered her arguments, leaving Whoopi struggling to maintain her stance.
People will agree with me that the baby deserves the right to life. And you can't say on one hand, at some point, but you don't want the government in the room between the doctor and the woman, but those who want the government to pay for it has the government in the room with the doctor and the woman. So you can't have it both ways.
No,
There is a medical ethics question there too, time.
Nancy Mace responded calmly and methodically, dismantling Whoopi's arguments. She clarified that the debate wasn't just about religion, but also about when a baby's rights should be recognized. The turning point came when Mace highlighted the contradiction in advocating for government funding of abortion while insisting that the government stay out of the decision altogether. Caught off guard by Mace's clear and well-reasoned points, Whoopi struggled to counter effectively, leaving her at a noticeable disadvantage in the debate.
Is that as bad as it is now with voting rights, and no one can explain what the problem is or how anyone's being prevented from voting, she says that this current phantom attack on voting rights will only lead to even scarier phantoms in the future. Listen to this.
This is part of the big plan. This is part of the big plan to control what happens in America. I believe what happens in America. If you take those voting rights away, people are going to be so angry.
In one of her more bizarre moments,
Next thing comes the women. We're going to take your rights away, just like we're taking X, Y, and Z, because there'll be nothing you can do. This country seemingly, or many people in it, seemingly want to be manipulated.
I was going to say to destroy it.
Well, I don't know if they realize that it is.
In one of her more unusual moments on The View, Whoopi Goldberg tried to connect solar eclipses and earthquakes to climate change. Her dramatic assertions quickly became a topic of mockery, with conservative commentator Matt Walsh leading the charge. Walsh didn't hesitate to criticize her claims, pointing out their lack of scientific basis and fueling widespread ridicule of her comments.
Of removing voting rights from lots of people, and probably everybody on The View, but not specifically based on gender or race, just based on how.
If you're enjoying this content and want to see more, don't forget to hit subscribe and help us share these discussions with a broader audience. Thanks for your support. Now, back to the topic. Matt Walsh wasted no time dissecting Whoopi's claims with his trademark sarcasm, joking that she might next blame gun control laws for celestial events. While his humor drew laughs, his reasoning was even more impactful. Walsh highlighted that natural disasters and astronomical events have been occurring for millennia, completely unrelated to climate change, effectively dismantling her argument.
Agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that? Who takes away the support system for these children? Who takes them away and shuts it down? And by the way, when they shut it down, they stopped the mandated reporters from being able to see children that were being abused, molested, and in fact sent them home and abandoned them to their abusers with no way to watch, and referrals dropped 50 to 60.
The internet quickly lit up with memes mocking Whoopi's statements, turning her into the subject of countless jokes. Despite her efforts to redirect the conversation, Matt Walsh's pointed critique underscored the absurdity of her claims, dealing a significant blow to her credibility in the process.
A lot of folks who died during this, so it wasn't, people weren't laying around eating bond, but, well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be sick, because no one wanted to believe.
Walsh calmly detailed the severe consequences of school closures, highlighting the rise in mental health issues and the alarming drop in reported child abuse cases. He explained how many vulnerable children were left isolated at home, often trapped with abusers, without the support of teachers or counselors who could have stepped in to help.
And they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
Well, Phil, we don't even have time to talk it out now, man.
Attempted to defend school closures as a necessary sacrifice, but Dr. Phil responded with compelling facts about the lasting harm caused to millions of children. He highlighted the significant mental health struggles and educational setbacks, presenting his case with clarity and precision. His arguments left Whoopi visibly unsettled and struggling to mount an effective response.
You know, these are these things where, first of all, I was in a situation, we do what we call the dog and pony.
Right.
We're out doing the dog and pony selling a picture. And you get sometimes you get what you feel is slightly ambushed by somebody who's really got an agenda. And that's sort of, I think, that's my opinion of what happened to me the other day. The last thing I like to watch is entertainers or actors get political. It's just something I can't. No, I was kind of asked to put it in context somehow with this movie. Mm-hmm. You know, my personal feeling is that there's a big difference between Fantasyland and reality. Fantasyland is what we do. You're either writing something, writing a song, writing a book, doing a movie, doing a television show. That's Fantasyland. Mm-hmm. And that's where that stuff belongs. In reality, when we're dealing with things like terrorism and whatnot, we're all going to have different opinions on government ever hasn't had to fight its own people, and its own people hasn't had to fight its own government. We had our Civil War. If that Second Amendment hadn't been there, those people would not have had the opportunity to do what they considered was defending their life, their way, their style of living. So I agree with that. I think that's an important part of our existence, and it's basically that simple. That's hard to do. It's one of those things that, it's like I talked about, sometimes talking about terrorism. Whatever we do, and we all have our opinion on that too, whatever we do, we're a little late for the people who've died. And if you know somebody, or you know a child that was maimed in that situation, I got a strong feeling that one's opinion has a tendency to change that. Yeah. So I just leave it open for interpretation by all different people and just say we're all in this together and we got yeah.
Violence, and you have said that you're going to fight him tooth and nail on it, and so I am so eager to hear what problems you have with the president's plan.
Well, I think if you ask Kelly or I, how did we react to the shooting of children? It's like anybody else, horrified at that, to think that our kids could go to school and be shot. So I think whether on the right or the left, we all have the same sense of recoil at the horror of this. My main opposition to this is constant